Sign up to the SBR Network and use your free daily bet points to earn real-world prizes. Click on the page and start winning now. Hi, welcome to SBR Forum Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. Today is March 6th, so we are about 60-odd games into the regular season, and right now we're going to do our regular NBA Conference Update show that we do every few weeks with Jordan Sharp, SBR contributor. Jordan, thanks for being back with us.
Pete, thanks for having me.
All right, pretty interesting how the NBA season has turned out, right? And now let's start with the first interesting team I want to discuss. Now, most of our, predictions have gone pretty accurately. The Pacers, we've been speculating. We were like, are they the new Spurs? Are they going to be maintaining their ATS value for extended periods of time? And recently, they have tailed off in a major way, right? They're 2-10-1 against the spread over the last 13 games, and that includes 5 straight-up losses as a favorite. So what's up with the Pacers?
You know, the Pacers initially, when they were kind of on this losing streak, when they started off around the end of February, kind of starting to lose consecutive games, 3 games in a row against the spread, I really thought it was just kind of that middle of the season lull, that February grinded out type time where teams are all suffering and all really tired and all not really playing up to the potential. But the Pacers have kind of dragged that on into March, and it's starting to more or less look like this team is not exactly ready for the title I think you and I were bestowing upon them just about a month ago. I'm not ready to just sell and run away completely on the Indiana Pacers, but I think we've talked about this before. I still don't think the Pacers are good enough to beat the Heat in a 7-game series, even if they do have home court advantage. So I'm already speculative of this team. I do think they can turn it around against the spread. I think that the market has caught up to them finally, which I think it has for now starting to be a lot of teams, which we'll discuss here later in the call. But right now, I think you have to definitely continue to fade the Pacers right now until further notice.
Now let's talk about a couple teams that we have had a pretty good read on in these calls. The first one is the Bulls, right? Since the big trade in January, we thought that might be start of a ATS profitability span for the Bulls, and that has kind of happened. They're 10-2 against the spread over their last 12 games, and a lot of those covers have been by pretty comfortable margins. I'm a believer in the Bulls. Are you?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be at this point. I mean, Chicago has shown, a couple of weeks ago we were talking about them. I think they had won like 3 or 4 straight games against the spread. We were kind of looking at them as, we think they can do it, but they were still a little question right now. At this point, I think you have to, again, look at the Bulls as a very solid team. I'm as a Bulls fan, I had no idea that they could trade Luol Deng, possibly their best player or tied for their best player with Joakim Noah, and become a better team. But they absolutely have, and they've just been leaning on their big guys, like Joakim Noah more, and he's proven to pay and has paid off. And I think that it's a really testament to this team of how well they play on both ends of the floor right now, and how especially their defense has been just outstanding, even since the Deng trade, who was arguably their best defender before he got shipped out of town. So, right now, Chicago, ride them while they're hot. I'm absolutely enjoying it, and I think that because of their defense, they're going to continue to be overlooked in a lot of situations, and I think that may lead to them being undervalued still.
All right, and then another team that seems like every call you've been telling us to look out for is the Wizards, and 12-5-1 against the spread last 18 games. So great call on that one, Jordan Sharp. Do you think that continues?
I mean, I don't see why it can't. And it's funny because I think the Wizards had actually, even though that now people are starting to catch on to them against the spread, they lost Nene, and I think people really thought that, whoa, we need to take a step back from the Wizards. And I remember still telling everyone, no, I think the Wizards are actually a little bit better of a team, especially on the defensive end without Nene in the lineup. And I think they're much better. Their bench unit, once he comes back, I think will be better served if he comes off the bench and helps that offensive role, because I think there was just a problem in Washington before he got hurt of too many cooks offensively in the kitchen at the same time, because all 5 of their starters with Nene in the lineup could score. Now they're able to spread it out a little bit, and you're seeing the emergence of guys like Bradley Beal and Marcin Gortat, Trevor Ariza, who just can't miss from the 3-point line right now. And of course, John Wall really hasn't even been playing great recently, but has had big games when they've needed him to step up. This team is a very well-rounded basketball team. They have been all year, and I mean, I don't see why they can't continue to be a pretty solid bet. It's teams like them, it's teams like the Bobcats that have just been horrific in the last 5 or 6 years, both straight up and against the spread, and they're starting to turn it around because the East is that bad this year. But these two teams are actually pretty solid teams, so don't look at them as a team anymore, and I don't think anyone is anymore, but don't look at the Wizards as a team that can't be a solid bet on any given night against any given team, because depending on what the line is, I can still back the Wizards and almost against any team, especially at home, where they are just playing outstanding basketball right now, especially on the offense.
Okay, sounds good. Great insights, Jordan. And now, finally, before we move on to the West, we got to talk about the Sixers, right? Last night, they were a 21-point underdog. Did they cover? Not even close. One of the worst teams in recent memory. And despite that, do they have line value? No. 4-15 against the spread in their last 19 games. What do? Do we blindly fade the Sixers going forward, even if we see them as like a 15-point favorite underdog every night?
I think there will be opportunities against some of the East bottom teams when they're playing at home. You can't just blindly tail them and say, I'm just going to go to the other team. But in almost any other instance, I don't see how you can't right now. I mean, this isn't even an NBA level basketball team. I mean, and there's, with the exception of Michael Carter-Williams and Thaddeus Young, and with maybe a couple other guys, and when I say a couple, I'm not exaggerating. There's not one guy on that team outside of maybe 4 guys that should be on an NBA roster, and they are just a horrible, horrible team. And they don't play defense. I mean, at this point, I would honestly rather take my chances in playing in oncoming traffic than betting on the Sixers right now. I mean, you're just shooting yourself in the foot before you even get going in the night. I mean, absolutely. I think you can, at almost any situation, not all situations, but almost any situation, just fade the Sixers and you'll probably end up on top.
Jordan Sharp pulling no punches in his critique of the 2014 Philadelphia 76ers. All right, Jordan, now let's move on to the West.